What's going on with C.J. Stroud is huge. I've heard Rams rumors. Are they still all in on CJ? I think he throws a beautiful ball, but man, he had some bad picks. Man, the turnovers are concerning. What is going on with him?
I think it's a loss of confidence, really. It manifests itself in the footwork not always being where it needs to be, which threw off some of his accuracy outside the numbers. And this is over the last 2 years. It was not just last year. It just hasn't been the same since his rookie season. I think a couple of things to keep an eye on. They changed quarterback coach. We'll see. Now, so who's not in the building now that was in the building in 2023 and is now in Chicago is Case Keenum. And Case Keenum is a phenomenal set of second eyes. And it's not a surprise that the Bears re-up Case Keenum because he's basically like another quarterback in that room. He's like another quarterback coach. And I think CJ really misses having a guy like that in his ear, someone who is a second set of eyes on the field to give him some confidence and really give him a different feel from a quarterback standpoint about what the defense is doing. Nick Caserta's done a great job. They've added offensive linemen. There's no excuses there. They've added David Montgomery to go with Woody Marks.
Yeah, I like that move a lot. I like that move. Yeah.
I do too. I'm a big David Montgomery fan. Tank Dell is back. Jaden Higgins in year 2. Nico Collins is, a very good wide receiver. There's really no excuses. Their offense coordinators in year 2. And CJ, this is year 4. If you don't play well, it's an official regression for CJ Stroud. This is a monster year for him. He will get his 5th-year option. That's going to happen. But the extension can't happen, Colin, until you see the same quarterback or a better version that you saw when he was a rookie.
All right. Finally get to discuss the Houston Texans now, baby. I've been waiting for this. I'm going to go on a nice little rant. Because I've got some thoughts. As soon as I saw that there was a graphic with C.J. Stroud and the Texans in the bottom right corner, I said, we're doing this. Let's go. So I am pumped. Before I dive in, though, please, Houston Texans fans, don't forget to subscribe and watch the full length of the video. When you guys subscribe, when you watch the video, when you do both at the same time, the views go through the roof. Subscribers go through the roof. And I can't emphasize this enough. It's not just about chasing views. It's not just about chasing subscribers. Obviously, I want the views. Obviously, I want the subscribers. But it's about being able to create content that people genuinely want to watch, so I can keep producing the best possible Houston Texans content that I can, so we can have real, grounded, unbiased conversations. So please do consider doing that. So let's now get into it. When we talk about no excuses with the offensive line, this and that, the offensive line has been awful. The offensive line has been terrible. We can't expect a quarterback in year 2 and year 3, who is still on his developmental path and needs to be nurtured, to magically become consistently great when his offensive line is a disaster, when his receiving core is constantly banged you and injured, when he's adapting to a new coordinator, and when his running game is inconsistent. Guys, we don't see that with any quarterback. Even the quarterbacks who have had a resurgence, whether it's Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, no matter who it is, let alone the elite ones. Everyone says this about Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, when their offensive line isn't there, what do you want them to do? Blah blah blah. So it's just like, why do we expect a quarterback in year 2 and year 3 to survive these issues that we barely expect from all-time special talent? I don't understand. Now, again, I will say this early in the conversation. C.J. Stroud absolutely, positively needs to be better. And I want to see him demonstrate more resilience. Resiliency matters tremendously to me. It does. It matters a great deal. And it's why I rate someone like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes so highly, because their levels of resilience are through the roof. Through the roof. And as someone who believes in C.J. Stroud, who thinks he can be special, who was pushing for him to be the MVP, thinking he was going to be the MVP, etc., extremely high on the Texans, obviously, that hasn't come to fruition yet. It hasn't all been tied together quite neatly. But the one thing, because I'm open to him struggling. I'm open to him failing, considering the circumstances. But I would love to see more resilience. Even when you're failing, even when things are obviously all over the place, show me the resilience. And I see that again with the Josh Allens and the Patrick Mahomeses of the world. And I'd love to be able to see that with CJ Stroud, and I haven't been able to. And that's frustrating. And that's something that makes you wonder, does that put a cap on who you are? I just think it's been a tough journey, so to speak. It's been a difficult timeline of events for CJ Stroud in terms of the team's construction, injuries, etc. I just think it's been death by 1,000 paper cuts for CJ in terms of our perception of him. That's what I think it really comes down to. And I'll be honest, at this moment in time, I still go back and forth. I still toss and turn on this. What should I expect from a quarterback when you're changing coordinators, when your offensive line is a mess, and receivers are injured? I have different expectations based on where you are in your career. I expect, again, I'll just keep using Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen as reference points, I expect them to be better in less than ideal situations. Now, I don't expect them to just go win a Super Bowl, but I expect resilience, competency. I expect it, right? Because I think, if you're as great as I think you are, sure, you'd be better with a better offensive line. You'd be better with better receivers. Absolutely. But I still expect a certain quality of play from you. Because if I don't, then there's no difference between you and Baker Mayfield or Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts or whoever. Because at that point, what actually separates you? What makes you special? Is it that you can elevate even higher when everything is good? And maybe that is the case, right? That could absolutely be a football reality. I think you can establish that there are different ways of being great. You can be a player who elevates a team. You can win a heck of a lot of games without having a great roster. But that same quarterback, if you have an elite roster, maybe you don't do enough to actually put the team over the edge. Or maybe you're not mistake-free enough to truly get over the hump. And then there are other quarterbacks who, when you have an elite roster, when you are stacked, when you have the great coach, are great at maximizing that situation. They're not good at elevating everything. So if you don't have a great offensive line or the best receivers, there's not much they can really do with you, and you won't really be able to show your greatness. But when everything else is in order, they know how to play mistake-free football. They know how to get the job done. They know how to execute at the highest level. They know how to maximize what's around them. Again, those are different skill sets. There are different routes to the destination. These are things I talk about a lot. We haven't really been able to see the full picture with CJ Stroud quite yet. And so we have seen, okay, maybe he's not the best at elevating. That's fine. That's fine. And this is something I say all the time. At the end of the day, I need to know, can you win when your roster is great? We, for whatever reason, slowly started to emphasize doing more with less. I think probably because we all collectively realized that when you pay a quarterback a lot of money, it's harder to pay for other people. And it kind of emerged that when a quarterback takes up a certain percentage of the salary cap, you have to let go of these players, and we kind of invented this whole mindset that if you're truly a great quarterback, you're going to have to prove you can win in less than ideal circumstances. And again, when you're having GOAT conversations, when you're really trying to figure out who's the best quarterback of all time, who's the best quarterback in the NFL right now, all of that is fair game. But when you're trying to figure out, can this be a great team? Can we win a Super Bowl? That conversation matters a lot less to me. It's, can this quarterback be great with a great team? That's all I care about. Because you're not going to win a Super Bowl without a great team. You're not going to win a Super Bowl without a great offensive line. You're not going to win a Super Bowl without a running game. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with a bad defense. You're not going to win a Super Bowl under those conditions. Name a time when it happened. It doesn't happen. It just does not happen. You can invent and cook the books all you want. It doesn't happen. Eve. And if you want to argue, well, this defense actually wasn't really that good, how did they play in the divisional round? How did they play in the wild card round? Was it great? Did they show up when they needed to? Yes or no? So you have to be really careful how you thread that needle. So in terms of this evaluation of CJ Stroud, could we say, yeah, you know what? He hasn't been the most resilient quarterback. I think that's 100% fair. And would I like to see better play out of him? Absolutely. Absolutely. But when he has his receivers intact, when he has a running game, when he has an offensive line, and obviously we know they've had one of the most mind-numbingly amazing defenses you could ever imagine, who is CJ Stroud. And that's why I said, and some people took this the wrong way when I was talking about it, I want to see CJ Stroud elevate his floor rather than his ceiling. You know, to me, he elevates his floor, which in a lot of ways is probably more the foundation of resilience rather than elevating in those big moments. It's actually just taking care of the floor rather than raising the ceiling. So I guess elevating the floor rather than the ceiling is probably the foundation of resilience. I'd have to think about that a bit more. Again, getting too philosophical right now, but to me, that's what I care about. That's what I care about with CJ Stroud. And that's what I said, being a better game manager. And people get this twisted, oh, you don't want to do that. If you're really special, you'll prove it, this and that. And I try to emphasize this as much as I can, if you're an elite game manager, you are going to be consistently a top quarterback in the NFL year after year. You can't be truly special without also being an elite game manager. It's just not possible. It's really not. There are so many other quarterbacks we've seen do magical things. Kyler Murray, I've seen Kyler Murray make plays where I just think, this guy is unbelievable. This is the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. He's not a great game manager. Therefore, who the heck is Kyler Murray in any given moment? I have no idea. That's a problem. That becomes a genuine problem. Who is this quarterback right now? I have no idea. That's uncomfortable. That's an uncomfortable position to be in. So that's what I want to see CJ Stroud take care of. And I remember a couple of years ago when we first started to notice, things aren't looking as they did in his rookie season. And people pointed out his footwork and his confidence. Because he has no confidence. He hasn't had confidence in the offensive line over the last couple of years. And again, credit to, I think it was Dan Orlovsky and Ryan Clark of all people pointing that out in 2024, right? Yeah, 2024. They were saying he has no confidence right now in the pocket. And it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. So again, when you're talking about a young, developing quarterback, it's hard for high M to find his footing in that situation. He does kind of need to be reworked. He does need to get resituated. He does need to rebuild his confidence. He has picked up some bad habits that he needs to correct, not kind of correct, just correct. And that's why I said it's more about death by 1,000 paper cuts, because all of the things we're seeing from CJ Stroud and how this has unfolded make perfect sense. The explanation for it makes sense. And I understand how you can get to where you are right now. And I do think CJ deserves that benefit of the doubt. I mean, it's actually pretty crazy. In 2023, the Houston Texans' pass block win rate was 53%, 27th in the NFL. In 2024, 58%, 22nd in the NFL. And then 2025, 56%, 30th in the NFL. The reality is, because there are some nice names like Nico Collins and others, and the defense has obviously been elite, the way this offensive line has performed, the way this offense has been a bit of a mess, especially when you factor in injuries, when we now look back and say, you know what, we need to give the benefit of the doubt to a Sam Darnold, to Baker, to all these other quarterbacks, look at where they were. It was the Panthers. It was the Jets. There are flavors of that with the Houston Texans. If any quarterback deserves some of that benefit of the doubt right now, it actually really is CJ. If this defense wasn't elite, and if DeMeco Ryans wasn't such a great head coach and obviously a defensive-minded coach, this team would be BA. And people would just say, oh, this team's not good. They can't win. CJ's not good. Blah blah blah. And it would be like, well, no, this is just a version of the old Panthers and the old Jets, well, I guess still the current Jets, but you know, the Jets, the Browns, etc. It's just the fact that this defense is elite and special. And so it can keep games under control. CJ Stroud is good enough. And when you do have Nico Collins, Tank Dell, etc., okay, you can do some damage. But the problem is that the offensive line has been, quite frankly, a mess from the jump. The running game up and down, up and down. And the receivers, again, injuries. Add to that a quarterback who is at the beginning of his career. It's a messy situation. It's a messy situation that is not being magnified because of the defense and DeMeco Ryans. And I guess because of CJ's baseline talent, so even in the playoffs, he's able to pull off some wins. He did elevate against the Chargers. I think the first playoff win was pretty straightforward against the Cleveland Browns, right? Against Joe Flacco. That was a pretty straightforward win if you remember correctly. And then again, I can't really put the win all on him last season in the playoffs against the Steelers, right? So I think some of that allows you to play a little bit of mental gymnastics here. But yeah, I think out of all the quarterbacks who deserve some grace right now, it actually genuinely should be CJ Stroud. But I emphasize one law. ST time, and I'll stop here, it doesn't mean he's just a victim and everything is fine. He does still need to be better. There were moments for him to be a better quarterback despite the offensive line, despite everything. Even in the playoffs against the Patriots, it was a messy game. And he also had his number one target go down as well. And that's tough, right? I get that. I think he got concussed, if I remember correctly. That's all hard. But he still made bad decisions. He still made bad throws. He was bad at managing that game. And if he had just been better at managing that game despite the limitations thrust upon him, it would have at least looked better. It at least would have been better. And I would have felt better about the loss. I wouldn't have been like, oh, you should have won. What the heck, CJ? If you were better, you would have won. But I would have just felt better about the loss. So that's why this conversation is kind of intertwined. You can approach it from both directions. You can offer grace to CJ Stroud and say he's a bit of a victim of circumstance, but also acknowledge that within that circumstance, he needs to be better. I'm not saying he has to overcome it. I'm not saying he has to rise above it and prove his worth and greatness in those moments. But I just expect a better and higher floor from someone like CJ Stroud. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans? The question is solely how much pressure is on him this season? Obviously, very much so, right? Very high. But let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.